Hey, welcome to the podcast, Kenyon.
How we doing, man? Thank you, thank you, thank you.
To introduce you to the audience, who do you say you are?
Wow. Sometimes, man, this here is it's a hard question, man, because a lot of times you're doubting yourself about what you do. But I consider myself a husband, um, uh, a Christian first and foremost, a husband, a father, a brother, uncle. I think a lot of those things represent who I am. I'm an African American. I'm a man. I'm a male. Those things I think represent me. But what I do outside of who I am is I work in safety. I'm a safety director for a construction company. I've been in the business. It's it's when I look back upon it, I started working on a farm. Worked on a farm for a couple summers up in New York. Equipment, doing the whole farm boy work. Went back to school. Worked with the city during high school. So I've been in construction for a very, very long time. And, you know, when we talk about being a Christian and they say he already know who you was before, you know, you even imagined it. I mean, it says it right there. So that's what I do. That's my platform is my safety. So um I also am beginning to get into, influencer, uh, trying to podcast a little bit, but really reaching out on a wide range of safety when it comes to starting with self care all the way uh, to to the body health wise, and at the same time trying to find your soul as well.
That's awesome. And I guess, like yourself, I see you got your merch, you got the podcast represented in the back. So shout out to you for that. And I guess
Yeah,
I'd like to shout out So Sweet Monogramming for setting me up with this hat and
no doubt.
trying to get brand
You
awareness
know who
going.
did this was Ramon. Ramon. Um,
Morgan.
yes, Ramon Morgan, man, just been helping me out a lot, man. So, we're all in the same circle, know the same people. And, it's a blessing, Asher, that a lot of these things that we're going through right now, doing what we do, it's cut in half, maybe even better. Depending on how we grind with the knowledge and the nuggets that we're given from folks that already had set before us, man. So I'm just happy to be in the mix, in the circle. Uh, it's a blessing, man. It really is.
That's awesome. And it's good to be able to leverage some of those relationships, like us being able to have this conversation is meeting you through the line and then
Right.
essentially being able to use the podcast platform as a pivot to sit down and have a conversation. Tell me a little bit more about your background. Like you said, growing up as a farm boy, like what was that like?
It was crazy because there was, here I am, I'm just growing up, right? Um, I'm giving moms, a rough little time, at that point in time. And just a little boy stuff and getting into mischief. And she always knew I was scared of one of her brothers. He was stern, disciplined, straight to the point. But he was a great man. He was actually, uh, when I say upstate New York, he actually worked for Corningware. So he had two patents that he invented for Corningware, man. So he was a very smart man. I love him, man. He actually is there. He's my uncle and my godfather. So I'm so thankful for him. But yes, going back to what I was saying, I was on a farm, man, and it really taught me work ethic. It really taught me, um, for me, what I consider a little bit of what we got away from, and that's the American way of life, man. Um, every day that I actually live where I live now, and where I always try to live is I live close to farms, man. Uh, I don't know. It's something about something about the smell. It's which some people can, be turned off by, but I smell money. Um, I smell myself. It makes me go back to where it all started, right? And it gives me a great cheer to know that, this life that we're living, man, especially on a, that farm life, they don't give vacations, man. We're here kicking back, eating vegetables and all these other things, and those folks is working day in and day out. And right now, they back there getting potatoes right behind, not too far from behind my house right now. And I thank God for them. The other day, I told a lady, she was out there working. I was like, hey, I just want you to know I'm really thankful for you. And um, they probably don't even hear that enough, right? So that got me started there. That really helped structure me a little bit. I was also in Taekwondo, which really, really helped me out a lot.
Mm.
I grew up quick
Mhm.
because my brother and sister are almost 10 years older than I am. So I had to grow up myself being a latchkey kid. I was a kid that, mom left to go to work and I was still home by myself.
Mm.
Next door lady would watch, make sure I got up and left. And I would come home and I'd be home by myself. So I had to learn how to cook. I had to learn how to, wash clothes. I had to learn how to do a lot of things, which, you know, at that time it was tough, Asher, because you're in it, you
Mhm.
know. But when I look back upon it, it's that very thing that who I am today. I
Right.
still do my clothes. I don't expect my wife to do my clothes. I don't expect nobody to do my clothes. I do my clothes.
Mhm.
Now she'll help me. I'll help her, but there's no expectation there because I know how to do it, and I still do that. The hard work. I would tell you for a while I probably worked too hard, right? Because I
Mhm.
knew what hard work was.
Right.
When I look back upon it, it's great to work hard. It's great to grind it out, but there's a limit, and everybody's limit's different. And I had to find out what mine's was,
Mhm.
you know. And sometimes I actually pushed myself to a sickness that almost took my life not too long because of that hard work ethic that I had.
Mhm.
I have pride in what I do. Um, I always know that I'm a step behind in society.
Mm.
But I know now, right? Like right now, from what I've been through and where I've come,
Mhm.
I know I'm ahead of the game. And so I'm right where I need to be right now. And so thankful because I've hit rock bottom twice, man. And nobody else to blame um, but myself. The first one was rock bottom in a sense where I had to get locked up.
Mhm.
The second one was my health. And each time I came out a much better person. But I'm starting to listen a lot more too, brother. You know what I'm saying? I'm so so yeah, man. I'm just a hard worker, man. I think myself as a soldier, man. Like the guy that's out just making way
Yeah.
any way I can.
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes making way any way you can, it doesn't have you up here. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Um, it has you in a place where you're dwelling with the same types of people that are going through some struggles, and I found myself, looking around a lot and being the wrong leader.
Mhm.
Now I want to be the leader. I want to be that guy that when I'm standing around in the crowd, I'm trying to find out who needs help. I'm trying to find out who needs a resource, who needs a solution,
Right.
um, who needs a hug, who needs that, right?
Yeah.
And no better way um, to do that than to really be um, just really in tune with myself. So when you say who am I, that's really all I can really tell you. That's just who I am. I'm just a working man.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what I see myself as, man. Like I might be doing great things, but I'm still a working man. And that's how I want to be seen, man. And I'm just thankful for going on and these things.
Gotcha. I don't know if your audio is cutting out, but I'll try to keep an eye on it.
Is
But
oh, you think it's cutting out?
it's like it started to go in and out a little bit, but I think I
Okay.
got you.
Okay.
But I definitely resonate with what you're saying, and I can see where like being that working man and being like growing up on the farm and having those principles instilled in you, that expresses to me where your passion comes from. Because like when I hear you speak on the line, or I've heard a few of your presentations, it's like it almost sounds to me like you're getting ready to just lift the earth and then turn something over. And I'm like, man, like when Kenyon speaks, is like, you better buckle up and like, let's go. We either running through a
Man,
wall or we're
I got
getting
the
something
chills
done
now, man.
today.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. It's just there's a deep passion in there, man, for people and all those things, man. Yeah, you're right, man. I mean, that's what I want to do. I just want to turn the world over, man, and get it right, you know. But
Yeah.
it ain't like that. It ain't.
But at least for me, it's well received. Like how have you found yourself received over the years, whether it was like having to grow up fast or um, just experiencing life before the setbacks and after the setbacks?
Um, I was always received, I think as a true friend,
Mm-hmm.
because I love hard,
Mm-hmm.
until, you know, something changes my mind. So I was always in that realm. Um, I think also I was always seen I was always taken as a guy who had passion for whatever he believed in. Um, but when I was younger, I used that passion in the wrong way. Um, and that's what like got me in trouble. It's like I didn't know, what to how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess in a sense where it was if you was my friend, you didn't have to deal with that side of me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I always made sure that I never did anything wrong to somebody I cared about, liked, loved. I was funny about that. I wanted to make sure that, it was somebody that I wasn't associated with or
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know or I didn't like. So I kept that. And so I guess when people saw me that they they sort of knew that piece of me. There was a lot of integrity, a lot of people loving types of qualities. I just love talking, love people. So I think that's how people took me coming up, and they also knew that I was a little bit older than what my age was at the time because of I had to become a little man,
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, for my mom.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess as you fast forward into today, like how did you get into safety or decide into that of all things?
So, you know, like I said before, he already knows where you're going. And all this all this time that I was learning how to work equipment, learning what hard work was about, learning how to, you know, do all these things that keep me in survival. But I think that there was always another side of me that um when I looked at it, I always knew that it was about people. I just didn't know what.
Mm.
So long story short, once I got out um, of being locked up in prison, I woke up at night, and it sort of came at the wrong time because my wife's already thinking that I got jailhouse religion when I come back, right? So I'm not haven't been home long, and in our
Mm,
first 2 or 3 years, I was a very inconsistent partner,
mm,
husband, boyfriend. So I wake up and I say, man, God told me He wanted me to save lives. I'm gonna go to school to be a doctor.
mm,
And He honestly did, because I woke up out of the middle of my sleep and it was so real. So man, I ran with this thing. Next thing you know, 2 months later, I'm in school. So I'm studying to be, actually, well, I was in a program to be a PA.
mhm,
And then I was like, hold up. How am I going to be a PA when I got charges, felony charges and stuff like that, that I'm trying to get off because, things wasn't what they really were. And I don't know if this is going to work, but some lady told me, you need to keep going. So
mm.
I kept going,
Right.
finished, got my associate's degree, was doing well in this program. Um, and then something came upon me. When I received that information, I never once asked God, how did you want me to save lives? So I literally, figuratively, and literally had to pay several thousands of dollars back to the school
Mhm,
for something that God, that wasn't His intention. See, His intention was I was going to save lives, but I was going to be a safety guy.
mm,
See, if I would have asked Him, I would have found that out.
mm,
But see, I had I woke up in the middle of the night with something so real that I almost forgot who gave it to me.
mm.
Here I am creating a dream. Now I'm adding to the dream. Stuff that I didn't tell you that,
Right.
but I I paid for it, man, because I had to pay, for about 3 4 years, man, to pay off that 2 years for that biology uh, associate's degree that I got.
Right.
So so before that, I was when I was in the service, I became a sergeant and stuff like that, and you're taking care of people.
Mm,
So when I look back upon it, I was being prepared, time step by step, process by process. Um, so I was always a safety guy. Even before I became a safety guy, I was actually doing hazmat. So I
mhm,
was I was a superintendent, but I was still a safety guy because I got people working for me. I'm keeping them out of hazardous materials, doing all these um, different acids and lead and stuff like that. So it was real. As I look back again, I seen that.
mhm,
So me becoming a safety guy, Asher, um, it was always how He wanted it to be.
mm.
And it's just been so influential because the first time I got um, they asked me to come out of the field and offer me a job as a safety manager. That job, I was rewarded as this in the ENR magazine, which is Engineering News and Record,
Mm.
for the safest job in the United States. It was the number one safety job in the United States. That's when I sat back and I said, I see the difference when my choice, and when I call upon you in the morning for my daily bread, I see how it comes out.
Right.
It comes out a lot different. Now, the struggles, they're still there, those things are there, but the outcome is way much more significant. Now, who would have thought that a guy as ratchet as I used to be, that I would have an opportunity to be raised up in a field that, wow, man, that blew my mind. That that's that made me dig my claws in a little bit deeper in my word. That made me um, be more consistent on the line that we get on, and just so thankful for these group of men, man, for their walk. Because there was days I wanted to quit, days I didn't want to be this husband, this felon, this I didn't want to be this guy off and on because it was just so rough.
Mm.
But now you know, seeing that me being a safety guy was the right platform for me. I ain't gonna say it's been easy, but it's sure enough been pleasantly. Uh, I just love it, man. Just love it. So that's how I got into safety. That's how I became a safety guy,
Yeah.
and it was I almost messed it up.
Mm. How so?
I almost messed it up because I almost went my own way
Mm. I see. From the beginning.
from the beginning. And sometimes you're just that close from losing the opportunity.
Yeah.
But I was able to see and bet on myself and
Yeah.
do all those things. So, yeah, that's how I became a safety guy, man.
That's pretty cool. I think one thing I found interesting about what you said earlier, when you mix kind of like passion and hearing from God, it's one of those things even in learning how to read the Bible and going back through reading about the different prophets, especially in the Old Testament, it's like there's a lot of information there that you can kind of get lulled to sleep and not realize because like being on the prayer line and being among men that are trying to better themselves and grow spiritually, it's like when someone says so emphatically like God told me this, it's like okay, like I believe you, I trust you. But then it's interesting sometimes where it's like when something is said with confidence or conviction or like this is the thing that I want to do, it's like okay, God said that. But then when it's something negative, it's like well, maybe he wasn't there. Maybe he wasn't part of that. So it's
Right, right,
like going back to what you said about listening and just hearing what people say, maybe not buying all of it, but like at least being attentive to be like, okay, what's the lesson that I can get out of this? I think
right.
it's
That
interesting
fits
and
for that fits you.
yeah, and it's
That
interesting to
fits you.
like hear the discernment and the differences because it's like I don't think there's anything wrong with having a relationship with God, but sometimes it's interesting like how things can be shaped based on like the experiences that we've had. And to your point, it's like, well, I thought it was going to go one way, but then it went a completely different way. And being in safety, as long as you've been in it now, and like you kind of described, I was like, okay, I hadn't heard from Kenyon in a minute, but he started talking about like, oh, I'm getting this mic and I'm doing this other thing over here, getting a camera, like setting it up. It's like, oh, okay, like he's doing a podcast thing. He's like, I don't know what this is, and it's like, oh, like you want to do that? Oh, by all means, come do it for us. And it's like it's funny how you can kind of stumble into some things, but also like when something kind of grabs your attention, you're like, I might check that out.
Well, it's funny you say that, man, because I guess after I got a little bit over 1,000, getting close to $2,000.
Mm,
I was looking at myself like, what are you doing? Like, what are you getting into? I was like, and I'm still like buying this
mm,
and looking at the equipment and setting it up, and it's like, but for what? Like, I'm not techie at all, man.
yeah.
You know, and shoot, I came on here 40 minutes early just to set up. Just to, just so I'm okay. So I'm not the problem. So, uh, but anyways, no. So my wife was like, "Hey, like, do you know what you're getting into?" And I said, I just asked myself the other day, and I don't, but just give me a little bit. There's something going on here. She was like, well, when you get like this, it's usually a good thing,
Mm,
you know. So, um, And as I kept doing it, the the things were in my path that I needed,
Right.
right? The there was just things that I needed that were there for me. There were signs, there was just a lot there, man.
Mm.
And actually that day that she talked about, I was driving in. I actually told somebody about this. I drove in, Asher, and I was praying to God. And I was like, God, what am I doing? I said, I know that there's something here, but I just didn't think it was, again, a podcast. Like, what? I don't have. I got a camera. I got this. But I don't have that. I'm not into that. I don't know
Mm.
too much about video lighting. And then when you start reading about it, it's like I don't know if I really want to get that deep.
Mm.
After that, it was probably about 4 months in. I get a call. Young lady called me that I work with. Well, used to work with, and we talk every once in a while. She was like, hey, I was meditating. She was basically saying, this is exactly her exact words.
Mm.
I heard a voice, like there was in my in while I was meditating, I kept seeing something, just kept saying, you need to quit your job if you're going to do what it is I need you to do. And I was like, you got way too many years to be quitting your job.
Mm.
And she was like, I'm not talking about me. She said, when I was meditating, I saw your face. She was like, I haven't told you because it seems weird, that information. Like, it doesn't even make sense.
Right.
And she's like, does it make sense to you? And she goes, hello? And I was like, 100%. I said, early this morning, I prayed to, I needed some answers. Like what do I need to do? Where am I going? Where's this going?
Mm.
And for you to come with that, and she had that information for over a month. She just didn't know how to tell me. But she told me at the right time. Like, too many of those things, Asher, ain't coincidence, man.
Right.
After a while, man, I'm just convinced, man. It's like
Yeah.
I'm convinced that I might not be doing the right thing, but I'm somewhere where I need to be.
Mm.
I just got to keep searching, looking, and doing whatever it is. But um, yeah, and that's really how I got to what you're talking about. That's how I got to this thing here. Like,
Right.
that's how I got to Ramon, and that's how I another Scott Hires
Yeah.
helping, QL's helping, so just everybody's there for me. You know what I mean? I got what I need. There's some people, they don't have that, you
Mm.
know. And I'm just, like I said, man, I'm just totally, totally thankful for just being in the circle, like I said.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. It's funny when you tell this story, when I think about it, and it's like thinking to listening to understand and not kind of prejudge and be like, oh, that's never happened to me. And it's like, if you really think about it, how was it? They have this saying that they say people are in your life for a season and a reason. And sometimes it's like the first time I heard that, I was like, yeah, it sounds good, but I don't want to hear that right now. And it's like,
Right, right,
um,
because you're in it, because you're in
right,
the
right,
season.
right. And it's one of those things where it's like when you want something so badly, it's like you keep chasing after it, but being open to letting go and taking enough time to work on the main thing, like kind of shoring up the things that aren't right about your character or your person, or actually for me within the past year, it's been taking the advice of like giving myself more love and attention, actually looking into my eyes and having conversations with myself, as well as like making quiet time for God. And it's that in doing those things and making simple small goals that relate to myself daily this year, it's a lot of those things, like you say, a voice or a message that may come from a friend, like those things seem more real and realistic to where it doesn't have to be um it doesn't seem so far fetched. It's like, okay, yeah, that something like that has happened to me and that is tangible. And it kind of goes
Right.
back
It's
to
not
like,
so grandiose.
right, right. And
Got you, man.
it's all in the matter of like where your attention and where what has your focus, because it's like if you've got too many things in your ear, like it's hard to hear like that quiet still voice or to be able to receive a message that's directly for you.
That's man, that's 100% Asher, man. There was something I did two, maybe almost 3 years ago, and I stopped watching TV.
Mm,
Um, and what I was doing, I didn't even realize it, but I was actually a YouTuber. I've been a YouTuber for a long time.
mm,
And because I would just watch what I wanted to watch, how long I wanted to watch it. So if I wanted
mm,
to skip over some stuff, I could do that.
right.
But I didn't, I found myself intoxicated by what I was hearing and seeing. And I had to, there was a lot of things that I had to cut out of my life to be able to get to what you're talking about, those little nuggets, those little wins. Um, because I just had so much inside of me that was making me think the way that I can't be thinking like that. And then the greatest thing is that I realized that it was great for me as a safety manager that I didn't see some of that. With all the different things that you see and hear out there,
Yeah.
I can't be watching those videos because that the video that may be playing, it's to me, it's not a microcosm of what the world really looks like.
Hmm.
That video to me, those videos, those things, and some of the when they come to you, I don't I think it's if it if you don't know how to disseminate that information, that comes to me, that comes into play with how you navigate on a daily basis.
Mm,
So I had to get away from that. I had to get away from what else was I doing at the time? Um just a lot of junk TV was really my big thing.
yeah.
Um
Like
and
if I could,
listening
it
to crap.
got you. I mean, if I could ask you, when you say listening to the news and like being in a position of like a safety manager or safety director, it's like, would you typically use like popular news and things like that to relate to the guys working in the construction industry to say like, oh, hey, like this incident happened, or hey guys, Thanksgiving's coming up, like let's be careful about this, or I know everybody's looking forward to this movie or this TV show. Like, would you make connections like that, or was it not really
I
influencing
may
your job in that
n- n-
way?
no, honestly, my connections are don't come from nothing of that sort.
Mm,
My connection comes from who are you? What's your
mm,
name?
mm,
What's your daughter's name? Hey,
mm,
what are you going through?
right.
That's my connection. And if I have what you're talking about in my head, the way
Mm,
they project it,
yeah.
I don't get that relationship
Mm,
because I'm biased.
right.
I'm 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 listening to something and it ain't the whole story.
Mm,
Um, all these other things that would take me away from being the best safety manager I could be.
right.
Because when it comes to safety, there's no color, there's no gender, there's none of that. And
Mm,
and listening to a lot of, especially during the time as I was growing as a safety manager, and I still am, but the COVID, we had a lot of time to sit, marinate, and I did not marinate on anything like that. I marinated on my wife. I
mm,
marinated on on my newborn. I marinated on my mom who had dementia. Like
Mm.
those things I found to be more profound than anything I could have found on TV at
Right,
that time,
right.
you know. So as I did it, I conditioned myself. I don't even like when TV's not on, I don't even notice it
Mm.
because I'm either reading, doing work, figuring out how to advance, doing some of the things you're doing, talking to myself,
Mm.
releasing my mind, doing things for me, my family, and what is important. So yeah, man, I've taken it out. It's even been hard for me to sort of get back to this because some of this you do have to deal with the social media and those things, right? So
Yeah,
um I got tools now though.
yeah,
I've given myself an opportunity to grow myself enough that I got tools. I don't have to get mixed up in the mix. I don't have to. I could listen to some things,
yeah.
but I don't. If I
Right, right,
see that it's a beating or it's something, I don't even put that in my mouth. I don't
right.
even. I just keep skipping. But if I see Asher, or if I see Dewan Matunga, and if I see BK, or if I see you guys or something
Mm.
that's going to when I'm using my time up on social media build me,
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking at.
same here. Yeah, I can definitely echo that because it makes a world of difference what you scroll through. If you put a time limit on it, or like if you post in Ghost, or you don't have to read the comments or get caught up in it because someone could have you like feeling like $1 million one day and then be dragging you to the mud the next. So it's like you can't get too high on your own ego, but it's good to see the things where it's like, oh yeah, like this is what my timeline's like. You got a little bit of jokes, but like things that empower you and really pour into you, to where it's
Right,
that despite everything that's going on in the world, it's not a thing of saying, I'm just going to act like it's not there. But the better I am as an individual, I think they say the better you actually make the world, because it's kind of like a fool's play to want to go fix the world and to run out and be like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. And it's like you spend none of that energy on yourself and actually studying who you are, what you're about, like what actually pulls and pushes you. Because then it's like at the drop of a hat, every single thing that goes on, it has you and it's pulling you in like 100 different directions. And at the end of the day, you just feel always on edge or stressed or tense without like the ability to acknowledge like what's really guiding you or leading you.
right, right. Yeah, man. Yeah. Those little powerful nuggets, man, is helps me, man. While you were talking, man, I was sitting there thinking, and it's like I know that what I the best explain it is that I've learned to greet everything at my doors,
Mm,
my eye gate,
mm,
my ear gates. I'm greeting those things. It's like, hey, we don't buy that here. The
mm.
guy that's knocking on your door selling stuff you know that ain't no good. Like
Yeah.
I'm at the door, I don't want it.
Mm,
But if it's something that a family member,
yeah.
somebody that's moving in my way, hey, come on in, enjoy yourself. You know what I mean? And just really just greeting those things before they enter, man. Because Asher, when I really look at my job, it's deep
Mm,
because it's a job of a servant leader,
mm,
and my job is safety. But when you look at safety, like when somebody comes in to work with marital issues, financial issues,
mm.
that comes into my realm because now you're not the guy that we hired. You're a
Right.
little bit less of some of what we hired because you got a safety issue. To me, it's a safety issue
Hey,
when
Kenyon,
you can't focus on.
I think something's going on with your microphone. It's like reverberating.
also still reverberating?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what happened.
Mm,
It was going, and then all of a sudden it.
okay.
Cool.
I sort of forgot what I was saying, but
Well, you were talking about, I think one point that you make that's kind of goes hand in hand with something I was reflecting on yesterday, and it was taking note. And you talk about greeting whatever comes to you at your ear gate, your eye gates, like with your senses, and being like, okay, like I get to choose what's going on. Like I can observe this, and then I can say,
right,
okay, yes, you're welcome to come in. No, you're not welcome to come in.
right, exactly. And that's I think from like you said, the little wins and stuff, I've learned how to do those things. You know, just by getting myself a lot of stuff out of my head. Shall I say? What do you want to call that? What do they call that? When you're basically just purge myself. You know.
Oh, like
Um,
doing a brain dump or trapping the monkey mind.
yeah, just purge myself.
Yeah.
Get it out and just rebuild yourself back up, refocus.
Mm,
But yes, being able to have the choice, because you don't have a choice when you don't have a defense,
mm,
when you don't know,
right.
when you can't detect it, if when you don't have these things and you can't greet it,
Yeah.
it'll rob you, you know. But when you once after you get robbed, you start like figuring figuring it out in a sense
Mm,
where you're learning how to, like you said, protect yourself, having a better choices and a better solution,
yeah.
um, before it even affects who you are, who you're trying to become.
Yeah. I think it's good that you present that there you have the ability to do something about things that come to you, because a lot of times it's you could you could be stuck in a victim narrative to think that everything that happens to me is always going to happen to me, and this happened to my father, that happened to my brother, this happened to my sister, that happens to everybody that looks like me, and different things like that. But being able to turn off the TV, or detach for certain things, or even spend time alone and kind of comb through some things, it's that, okay, I may not be the mayor, or I might not be the person that doles out the money, but at least I have a right to say what I can entertain, or I decide not to entertain. And I think being
Right.
able to understand that ability within yourself, it's not magic. It's not something you've got to pay more than your time to like recognize and practice and implement and put into to practice. But I think the more people are able to see it, I think that that helps kind of make the difference.
100%.
Yeah. It
100%, man. And just the power and just the power in the authenticity, the power in like you said, it being just m- more regular, something that it's sometimes it's hard for some people to maternalize or materialize. That might be using the wrong word, but materialize things that are super big. Does that make
mm,
sense?
yeah.
And it's easier when they can take a bite of it. Doesn't have to be so big,
Yeah.
and that's where we get those wins.
Mm,
Like when it's something that anybody could do. When it's something that is not a 10-page book,
right.
but you two or three good things that'll that'll really get you going and really get you where you need to be.
Yeah.
That's where I think the power is in that. Um,
I'd
I
like to
think we were
share
talking
this.
the other day.
You're
The
good. Keep going.
they're like they talked about the other day about that mustard seed, man.
Mm,
You know, it's almost like that. It's like those. when you really find out what the mustard seed is really all about and you research it, it's like it'll blow your head away. You like because it's deep.
Mm,
But when you look at it, it's biteable. You can see it. Like
mm,
you can look at it and be like, man, that's all I need.
mm.
It's the size of a mustard seed.
Yeah.
But then when you find out the what's inside that and how powerful that is, that's just like me. That's like you. That's like anybody.
Mm,
With just really just being simple and giving something, man, it's amazing the power that we have, Asher.
right.
And I think the better person, the better we are
Mm,
personally, the more power we have.
yeah. Something I heard this earlier this year, and I went back to find the video from John Maxwell because he's someone that's very good at taking things that seem complex and making them very simple. I'd like to get
Uh huh.
your thought on this. He says
Okay.
people change in four seasons. People change when they hurt enough that they have to. People change when they see enough they are inspired to. People change when they learn enough that they want to. And people change when they receive enough that they are able to.
Man, can you gotta hit me with that in the mouth again.
Yeah. Okay.
Run that one more time for me,
Yeah.
man.
We'll go one at a time and let me know what you think. So he
Okay.
says, we'll call this season one. People
Okay.
change when they hurt enough that they have to.
What I hear there, man, is survivability.
Mm,
I think everybody has that.
yeah.
I think that we're all when we were all made, no matter what, from the mouse, all the way up to the biggest thing that you can think of, is that if we are put in that predicament,
Hmm.
we will, by all means necessary, we will
Yeah.
survive. So I really
Mm,
believe that that change does come sometimes when the force is extreme.
mm,
Scary because I lived like that.
mm.
And my question is to that,
Yeah.
am I learning to change or move with the slightest bit of force, with the slightest bit of season?
Mm.
Like before, like, dude, why can't I just change?
Well, I think that's kind of the power of the season because it's like at least when I heard it and I was thinking about it earlier when it comes to um say someone this goes with having proper boundaries. It's someone's doing something that could be detrimental to them, but a parent,
Okay.
a friend, or significant other always seems to be feeling the brunt of their choices. And it's like, oh, they should just do X, Y, and Z. But it's like they're never going to do X, Y, and Z because the person that's consumed by it, even though it's not their thing, they're never going to let that person feel the hurt of their decisions. Not saying that they don't love them, but it's like
Mm.
if you really love someone, in order for them to respect your boundaries or in order for them to understand that their decisions have repercussions, whatever that hurt is, it has to be enough. Like whether it's small, whether it's because it's like someone could go to jail and they don't have a story like yours, or um someone could fail out of school and they're just like I couldn't care. It's like it's all relative. So it's one of those things where it's like everyone's worst day or everyone's worst pain, like someone that maybe went to war wouldn't diminish someone that says, okay, hey, my car broke down. It's like that could be that
Uh-huh.
person's worst day ever. And it's like that hurt could tell them, oh, maybe I've got to do this check of my car when I go about, or it's someone that's been battle tested in war. It's like, okay, well, they have a different, they might have a different pain threshold, but at least I've seen it when it goes back into tying in listening to people and being observant. It's one of those things where it's like, you depending on how you take it, you could exert yourself. Like somebody may be like, oh, you're going to overexert yourself. Like every time the seasons change, you're just going to jump and do this. But it's like, well, like it is, we're in the fall season. And it's like, as the weather changes, like the weather's going to do what the weather does. And you can either change your clothes or you can be like, oh, no, it's summertime. If you're in New York,
Right.
for instance, and it's,
I got
if,
you.
if that's the
I
type
got
of
you.
blood that you got, it's like, okay,
Right. It's either
you,
it's either going to make you change to do something or it's not.
right,
I
right.
get exactly what you're saying, and you're right. It just depends on the person and um, you know, what
Yeah.
that whatever that season is for them. I get you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Be-
depending on the strength of it, it'll make some change in somebody. I can
right.
understand what you're saying now.
Because
Yes, one
be-
hundred percent.
because to that point it's like it kind of gave me a piece about understanding why somebody doesn't feel what I feel in the way that I feel it, because it's, oh, someone should have this
Right.
behavior, and it's like it's completely seems rational to me, but it may be irrational why they're doing this other thing. But now when I look at it, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not wishing anything sadistic on them, but it's like maybe they haven't hurt or felt hurt in the way that I felt, to where I was like, oh, this was enough. And in order to me to just not run from the hurt, I'm like, I'm going to do these things to mitigate pain. So if like health wise, kind of like you talked about, we know that, okay, someone can say you should be doing these things. You can do 10 push-ups a day, you can do your squats, it's like, it's the difference between having like a dictate and also you being military. You have, the difference of like someone giving you directives like you got to do these things versus like, oh no, I'm choosing to do this and I know the outcome that's going to come from it. And if anyone says, hey, have you done X, Y, and Z, it's like, yeah, like I did. Like there's no trepidation in my heart to be like, oh, did I do this? And even if what once there is, I'm like, I need to go do this thing that I told myself I was going to do. Like I do,
Right.
if I do enough of
Right.
my work in secret and I know that my work is good, I don't have to be too concerned about somebody like blowing a gasket or flipping out. I'm like, okay,
Right.
that's their thing. I'm going to do this and it's going to help us. But if I do enough of what I need to do, just based on the pain that I've already felt from not doing it, I know when I do this, it goes better. When I do that, it doesn't go better. So it's like, I'm going to choose to do this. Even if it doesn't work out, I'm like, I'm going to do this more times than I'm not. And I'm going to get better days
Better
than
results.
better results than
Yeah.
I would otherwise not doing it. Because it's like when the seasons change, you get a little cozy. I'm like, I can get a little bit lazier. I'm getting like lethargic, and I went and I got a checkup because I happened to get sick for something else, and they were like, uh your vitamin D is very low, so like we need to we need to supercharge you. So I was like, okay, like at least I did the thing that I wouldn't have done before. And it's like I've been smacked on the hand enough times to know it's like, hey, go do this, don't end up being another case of someone that's like, oh, we lost another young one.
Right.
That was a
And you
long
knew, and he
explanation.
knew.
Right.
Yeah.
And he knew. And it's like he might have known, but it didn't hurt him that much. He was just
It
like,
didn't hurt it that much.
I'm just gonna chill with it.
No, I feel you on that, man. Oof.
Mm.
I feel you on that, man. Yeah, you're right, man. Everybody's season is so different, man.
Yeah.
And I think it's important when you're just, hearing or seeing those things, you got to really concentrate on the you.
Mm.
because you're everything you're you because you are different.
Mm.
There's a reason there, and um, there's maybe a couple little things in that season that may be comparable,
Yeah.
but but your season is your season because I see that even when I'm listening to like you hear people talk about like yeah this might seem little and but you know this and happen be like man I wouldn't want that to happen to me, you
Right.
know what I mean, but the other guy be like well shoot you know what I'm saying you had 7 years prison like uh you know I wouldn't want to do that,
Yeah.
and so when I when I see that it's just really understanding who you are
Yeah.
so you know what is for you and what's not for you even though it's good for somebody else
Mm.
it might not be you know work for you the way that they talking about so yeah you have to be careful man you have to be careful about seasons.
Yeah. You want me to give you some of the other ones?
Yes, yes,
Gotcha.
yes.
Okay. So the first season we talk about hurting enough. So the second season he says people change when they see enough they are inspired to.
I yeah I think our eyes man you know one my question is you know what is enough
Mm.
again that's going to go back on who you are
Yeah.
um what kind of well I shall I say a camera you know some people are panoramic some
Mm.
people are focused um you know they're right on that focal point woo yeah the seeing and the seeing enough like for me I'm one and done
Mm.
like I'm not a risk taker like I don't have I'm not a big risk taker so like if I had even hear
Mm.
that something was different with hey that didn't work I'll probably go you know research it but like the first time I see it and it
Mm.
goes wrong you don't have to show me again
Mm.
like i've I've learned I would say you know in my after in my 30s that like I'm not like I've seen it from my own eyes like it's real
Yeah.
like why why would I if it changed me,
Mm.
why would I let that even I don't want to see it again. Don't let it happen to me again. If
Yeah.
that makes any sense, man, because to me sight is like that's a even though it sometimes our eyes trick us, man, it's real.
Yeah.
That sight thing is real, man. We're tangible. People I think a lot are tangible,
Yeah.
you know. What's the saying? Um I won't believe it till I see it.
I think I think I heard maybe it was Les Brown that said it's like uh I'll believe it when I see it, and he's like no 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 like if you what did I say if I'll believe it when I see it, and he's like no like I'm not I'm not finding it for some reason. Basically he's saying like no 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 if you do the opposite like if you believe first then you'll see it like
Ah. I
but I
see
feel
what you're
like
saying.
yeah I'm trying to say it
No,
but I'm
you're I
saying the
get you.
same thing.
No, I get you. I get you. You know Les Brown, he's he be putting stuff you know, he be flipping some things, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I get exactly what you're saying like and part of that comes with what you know and what you don't know too, right?
Right.
What you've been through. Um and you know, you were sort of hitting on to me all these things we're talking about. I mean, when I hear it, it's like self-care again. It
Mm.
goes back to that self-care thing. And it's when you educate yourself, to me, that's part of self-care.
Hmm.
Because again, now you don't have to see it. You read it, now you believe it. Like, like in that saying, like, these we have opportunities to that we have to do. We have to go out and research. We have to read a little more. We have to listen to people.
Hmm.
Even though we may not believe in what they say, they give you another perspective
Yeah.
to help even maybe tighten up what
Mm.
you may believe before.
Yeah.
Now it's like, man, that sort of, now that but again, all these things get you ahead of having to maybe see something that's going to change your life.
Right. The funny thing that you mentioned, like as soon as you said it, I was like, hmm, what does it mean to see something? Because it's like when we talk about like an ET that's kind of brought us together. And it's one thing to you hear someone like an ET, like a Les Brown, like people that are phenomenal speakers and orators, but it's like there's something that you see within what they bring that's like, huh, like that it inspires you because that's what it is on the flip side. For the first one, it's like something's got to hurt you enough to where you're like, okay, I don't want to do that again. And then if you see something that's like, huh, I might just do that. Like I might
You know,
just,
you
I
know
don't
what
know
you know
what
what
I'm
part
doing
of
with
that
this
is,
podcast thing, but I'll do it.
and I think part of that is the authenticity that you get.
Mm,
Authenticity is real.
right.
So if you can give that, somebody doesn't have to see it, nor does somebody have to touch it. Because even the authenticity, when it comes out in your voice, and there's a sense of passion, there's a sense of confidence, there's some things that when you're speaking help make that thing just as real.
Mm,
And it's just like anything we do, like sometimes less is better than more, you know what I mean? Because
mhm,
sometimes, too, we already said it earlier, a lot of those grandiose things like sort of make you hesitant.
mm,
like is that real? Is that even real?
mm,
Because it seems like a quick fix, or it seems like you just haven't seen it. It's too
mm,
rare.
right.
But when somebody's talking about, the 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 grits and potatoes, from the crib, or
Yeah. It
something that you
just,
can really grab onto,
your mic just
man,
switched up again.
it did.
Yeah. I don't know what
Why
happened.
is
There it is. Okay. You're good. Maybe that's me.
let me talk maybe right into this thing, and maybe that will change it.
Yeah. I think you're good.
Okay. And see, I can't hear what you're hearing. I don't know what you're hearing. And you got an ear for it by now. So it
Well, it's funny because it's like I'll see what it sounds like afterwards, and it's like you're saying, learning to do this thing as you go, and like understanding like why people use mixtures or different things like that. And it's like I saw a meme or a clip of someone that was a sound engineer, and he's over there like moving all the dials, this, that, and the other, and the person that's next to him, he's like, it sounds fantastic. And as soon as he's like stops moving everything, you hear the person that's in the booth, they're just like, it's like nothing sounded on key. And it's like, oh man.
Yeah, because I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm doing, man. It like I said, I hope it comes out right, bro.
Yeah. It's funny because it might be me, and it's just like, hey, this thing, and it's like, what is he hearing? Or we're not hearing anything.
Right.
But I'll give you this third point, which I think they're meant to work out together, but it's always, I found John Maxwell like a good person to, like, reading some of his books and just seeing how it's laid out simply, and him being someone of faith that takes the inspiration and really focuses on writing it down and making it plain. And even more
Because he was a
recently,
minimalist, correct?
I think
Wasn't he a
so.
minimalist?
I
Okay.
wouldn't be surprised.
I
But to
think
your
he
point,
lived as a middle.
is that less is more, because I think someone put the clip up as a short on
Right.
YouTube. And if you know anything about YouTube, it's like the longest the short can be is 1 minute. So he's like, yeah, this could be like a whole sermon or something. And he introduces it. And he's someone that sits when he speaks, and he speaks clearly without using filler words or anything. And it's that having the ability to trust what you're saying without thinking that something else needs to fill in the blank. And the more and
Wow.
more it's exercised and done over and over, it's like, oh, okay. Like you have people that do the John Maxwell speakers, like the Toastmasters and things like that. It's
Right.
putting into practice the things that seem common, to where if somebody's doing a comedy set or someone's acting or someone, they're just like, oh, they're just talking or they're just doing this. And it's like, you keep paying attention, they're not just talking. It's like,
Right. Right.
let me
Right.
give you this mic in front of 1,000 people or in front of 2 people. And you're like, stage fright. My heart's
Right.
going. But
It ain't that hard. I mean, it ain't that easy.
right. But with practice, it gets better.
It gets better. That's
Yeah.
right. And that's anything.
Yeah. But
That's anything.
let me give you this third one. So it says people change when they learn enough that they want to.
Man, I just experienced that with this podcast stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had to start watching about lighting. Um, it 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 wasn't a big thing for me, but
Mm-hmm.
I knew that you can't just do anything. So I guess the more I learned
Mm-hmm.
and the more I understood,
Mm-hmm.
the more love I'm beginning to have for it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Like
It's
does
like,
the learning simplify it for you? You're like, oh, that wasn't
yes,
as complicated.
it's yes, because the complication is in the fact that we don't know.
Mm,
So it's almost like looking into the future. You can't.
yeah,
If you don't know something, then you're looking into this thing, and I think you're looking into something that's so big that you can't even talk about it.
yeah,
But when um when it's right there
hmm,
and you're getting that information, you're getting something that you're beginning to understand.
yeah,
And when you begin to understand it, you don't even have to love it, but
mm,
you have a respect, at least a respect for it, and you have a better way of how to deal with it.
mm,
My family, just real quick, to talk about, what you learn. They used to never really like go to the hospital to get checkups, right? They wait until
mm,
the lump showed up. They'd
yeah,
wait until the pain was too much,
yeah,
but they knew something was wrong.
hmm,
And they never talked about it because, one, they were super scared.
hmm,
But you find out that when you find out what it is,
hmm,
yes, that's traumatic,
yeah,
but now you know how to deal with it.
mm,
It's not as worrisome because you have a notion of what you're dealing with.
mm,
And I think that when he says what he says in that piece, I really believe that if you give yourself opportunity to understand somebody, you might not, you'll have a respect for them. Like, I went to Korea, another story, quick story.
hmm,
And the first thing I smelled when I got off that plane made me think of everybody in that country was just the worst thing ever because of the smell.
mm,
But the longer I stayed, I ended up staying for 2 years.
mm,
The longer I stayed, I began to understand that they work 7 days a week.
mm,
The kids go to school 6 days a week. That they working just as hard as me.
mm,
They're 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 dealing with what their government is giving them. So when I began to really truly understand the Korean culture,
mm,
I actually didn't. If I wasn't married, I would have stayed there because I fell in love. I fell in love because I took the time to understand. I didn't like everything that they did and didn't believe in everything,
mm,
but their makeup of who they were are who they were because that's where they were from, but they had a great culture. They really believed in respecting the young as well as the old.
Yeah.
Just a lot of good things. But I had a definitely the more I understood, the more I began to appreciate them.
Right.
So what that man said right there, he hit that on the coffin from what I feel on that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And the last point I found interesting, he says people change when they receive enough that they're able to. Sometimes when I hear that, I think of people that are selfless in a sense of seeing that if I have the ability to do for someone else, I will. And sometimes it may be someone that may not come from much, but they have enough of something that they're like, I can give this and help someone else that doesn't have it. And that maybe that's something to be said for discipleship or people that are shepherds and stewards, and they really have a heart for other people, or they kind of do things that are giving of themselves or of their resource without anyone needing to know about it or without thinking twice about it. That it's been a tough one to maybe come by for me, but it's been one of those where it's like, huh, like once I feel secure in an area to where I'm like, yeah, I think I have enough of that for myself. I don't mind doing for someone else because I'm like, I'm not losing anything.
What let me ask you this because I think this is here. I think it's funny how it's so simple,
Mm-hmm.
but I think for an individual it takes a lot
Yeah.
to make that decision. So, wow. I guess my question to you would be, and I know you interviewed me, but how did you get to the point where you were able to realize that I'm good?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes we
Yeah.
we be, we get guarded on something,
Right.
and then we guard ourselves, in a whole other realm.
For me, a big a big practice for this year, maybe the past 2 years or 4 years intently has been focused on really being selfish in a way and practicing self-love in order to understand that I'm enough, but going beyond like mouthing it, like you mentioned self-care earlier, actually choosing to do something without being told to do it. Maybe I was prompted through like counseling or coaching, but actually finding an appreciation in something that I'm doing or something that I listen to or
Wow.
like an environment where I'm at, and kind of practicing that on a regular basis. Because to go back to the point of learning enough, like everyone grows up with a different relationship of money, and all too common majority of people have a negative connotation with money where it's like rich people have money, they're all bad people. If you have money, you're a bad person. So then it's if you go from being an immigrant first or second generation where you immigrate to your parents to the states, you maybe come from middle class there, but then middle class here is kind of harder to come by. But you go to school, you make more money than you go from making nothing to making middle class, and you're like, okay, like this is good. But until I read like the psychology of money and like listening to people that speak of money, but how they actually speak with practical steps that you can take, and saying the reason that you might think on this thing is the reason that you think of money maybe in like a scarcity mindset from someone that's a parent or a child of a parent of the Great Depression. That's a different thing. Like someone that's born in the 80s or the 90s or the 70s, there's like different movements and things like that. And those things kind of break
Right.
down. But it's like getting some knowledge there and seeing that, okay, like I can be scared of money to where it's like if I have some, I feel like I've got to give it all away. But then when I don't have any, you feel like you're just operating in this um, you're trying to live within your means or live beneath your means to where if you have a little bit extra it can be set aside to help someone else and then you're not constantly struggling. But then it's like, okay, um millionaires are highlighted, but like people want to know what are the simple habits that millionaires do. And it's like being a part of the prayer line, being a part of the M series and saying, okay, we're going to get up each Sunday, like 6:30 Eastern time, 7:30. We kind of move the time around, but say for like 2, maybe sometime 4 hours every Sunday for the last 7 years, we get together and we talk through mindset, money, and motivation and other things that kind of come into that to where it's understanding what money is, how it moves, and maybe you don't get up and you're not following a scam or something, or um, to put it simply, something that was said in a video present day, thinking back on it 7 years ago, where he said, okay, if you want to become a millionaire, you want to write 10 goals each morning before you, once you wake up, and you want to visit your attention to those goals in the morning, at lunch, and at dinner. Before, when I would hear that, I'd be like, oh, that's baloney. But writing those 10 goals and pairing that with self care or things that I can do for myself to improve my image of myself, I'm like, okay, a goal can be I'm going to work out for 40 minutes using like the SMART goal approach. And then I can say, I'm going to go run by the pharmacy. I'm going to pack for the weekend because I'm going to travel over the weekend. I'm going to put away my laundry. Like it's going to be something simple. Somebody could be looking at my list like, oh, he didn't have any accounts that he was going to settle in here. It's like, no, I'm going to eat a salad. I'm going to drink water and stay hydrated. I'm going to leave my room beautiful. I'm going to make my bed. I'm going to meditate using an app or going through the Bible. And it's like, I've made it my own thing, like taking some of the principle that this gentleman has said, and I'm sure he said it before, and I may have come across the video, but the short answer to my long story is I've taken some time to sit with myself and to acknowledge myself and then kind of acknowledge myself as to like who I am, like, and without the without someone needing to tell me like, hey, this is what I see in you. But it's like I've had to do a lot of brain dumps and different things like that. But to even in having this conversation with you and seeing that there's value that I can bring to others, but there's also value that I can bring to myself. And is that in building myself up bit by bit by practicing daily hygiene. It's like, hey, even if you don't feel like it, take a shower. The season's changed, take a shower, brush your teeth, floss. And it's not one of those like, if you don't do this, your parents going to come after you at like you're 30 years of age. It's like, no, like I'm doing this. Yes, I was raised to do this correctly, but now I see the value in it where it's,
Right.
you don't have to go to the dentist and avoid cavities. And then it's like, that's extra money that, hey, if you want to go
Right.
on a vacation, you didn't spend $1,000 on a crown or something like that. And it's like, nobody's looking at the back of your mouth, but like you know what's in the back of your mouth, so you gotta
Right.
you gotta get that all fixed up.
Gotta get it, man.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
my
man.
answer.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, just really looking back at yourself. I mean, that, and the reason why I asked, oh man, is because it's the biggest thing is going back. I think is personal action.
Mm.
Like I like how you did it. Simple goals. Like it, and I was realizing it's like, man, like stuff like that'll just make you happy. Man,
Yeah,
I got my clothes folded, cleaned up my bathroom. You know, went and picked up what I needed to pick up. You
yeah,
know, just wins, right?
yeah,
Um, but again, they get you in a good mood. They get you looking at yourself as productive, looking at yourself in a way that getting some things accomplished,
yeah.
and that's very important, man. I've sort of done mine's different.
Hmm.
I've been really trying to fight to make sure I finish everything. So
Mm.
I guess I actually been setting my goals
Yeah,
in a sense where I'm trying to finish what I'm supposed to finish today,
yeah,
because it just when you drag stuff from yesterday into tomorrow, sometimes it makes for a very you just it's hard to catch up,
yeah.
and it gets you in a funk sometimes, especially if you don't finish.
Right.
Real simple.
I,
So yeah, I like that.
gotcha. I think one thing it's taught me, because I've tweaked it as I've went along, because I I started out initially because it was a challenge that was kind of put to us in the group. It's like, hey, okay, you write down 10 goals a day from either August or September to the end of the year, and we'll see, kind of report back on it, and we'll see how we do, like coming from Barry. And one of the things that I started to do until I watched this video, like the first few days, like I would write down my goals on one page. And then the next day, when I'm writing down my goals, or later that night, it's like I would start copying them verbatim. But then it's like, of course, some of them repeat, but it kind of helped me to see, okay, how realistic is my goal? If I say I want to do this thing, like, yeah, it may be important. Like, I want to check my financial account, but maybe I'm not allowing myself enough time to get to that. And it's like, it's a priority, but it's not really a priority. It's like, okay,
Right.
maybe I schedule this later, and say like doing my laundry. I'm like, okay, I can do my laundry over the weekend. Either I can do a load like a Saturday or Sunday, depending on if I'm traveling or not, or I can do another load like on a Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. I'm home. I can run one. And then even one thing, I was like, oh, let me not double my work. Once the clothes are dry, I'll fold them like in fours, or I'll like half fold them and put them in the basket, because that way I'm like, if I just dump them in the basket, then I've got to take them out of the basket again, fold them, and then put them up. So I'm like, even if I don't put them up, like I was thinking this, I may have done it one way one week and then one way the next week. And I was like, no, like it was Friday, because I was like, okay, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna run a load that morning before I go work out, come back, change out the load, put in another one. Since I don't live too far from where I work, I'm like, I'll come back for lunch. I'm not going to worry about carrying food to lunch. So I'll come back, I'll eat here. I got a salad. I just mixed it there with the dressing. And it's like in this time, like obviously, like I'm in a different season of life, but it's like finding what works for you, and finding like those small wins, and then maybe
Yeah.
adding in a challenge here and there. It's like, oh yeah, like even when I didn't get to write my goals the first thing, I was like, it's halfway through the day. Let me write down the things I did do that were like goals. So then I was like, okay, that's what I wrote down what I was reading to you earlier. I did work out. It was like from 6:30 to 7:10. And then I went up, picked up the vitamin D. And there's like, you need to take one of these per week because they're like 50,000
ICUs or
units.
something,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. And
yeah,
it's like typically if you get a
high
tablet of it, it's
use.
like 2,000. So they like multiplied that thing. So that's why it's got to be over the counter. But it's like, I'd already packed that morning. Or I packed during lunch because I was like, no, you got back, shower, get to work on time. And it's like I put away my laundry, so I just wrote that down. Yep, did that. I expense my medical receipt because I do like the health savings account, and it's like you
Uh-huh.
basically set money aside and then you can reimburse yourself. So I was like, oh, I did that. Cool. And then
Oh,
I
that's
also
pretty
did
cool.
it through an account that I've had since being out of college, and I needed to close that and just have one and not have like two accounts where I'm like, is there extra money here? Is there that?
Right.
And what's funny about that, it's like I felt good about doing that because on my drive, I listened to a podcast and they were talking about money and like again, changing my relationship with money and hearing it, like not hearing too many voices, but being clear on what I'm hearing and how much time I'm giving to it. One of the things that Dave Shands, he did a social proof podcast. It was like the best way you can develop a better relationship with money is by taking the time to organize your money. So he's like, imagine if you walked into your room and you had $100 bills all crumpled up and they were just like all over the floor. Like you go to the bathroom, there's like dollar bills around where the toilet paper would be, or like under the sink, there's dollar bills there. You go in your kitchen, there's dollar bills in the sink and things like that. And it's like, oh yeah, I've seen that before. And it's like, if it might be painstaking, you're thinking, oh, I got to draw up a spreadsheet, I got to do this. And I was like, you know what? I don't have to do that today. But at least it's something in my mind to where I'm like, I did that because I know for health savings, this money is here. I made one expense and that gives me clarity there. Like
Right.
I don't need to make out like $1 million plan every single day and like the
Right.
CEO billionaires, whether they're like real or fake or whatnot. I'm like, I'm gonna work this plan and I'm gonna see what happens. I do feel better about myself. So when I get information, if I feel like it's an information overload, I'm like, oh yeah, like you said, I get to visit the information gets to visit my gates and I can be like, maybe that's enough. That's enough YouTube for today. That's enough
Right.
Instagram scrolling for today. Let me put
Yeah,
that
buddy.
down. And it's like, let me just quiet things down. It's like, okay, somebody, if I'm too tired to have a conversation, it's like, okay, like, let me call you back tomorrow. Like just
Yep.
keeping it plain and simple. It's like, yeah, I wanted to do this. And like for me, at least at the moment, it's like everything doesn't need to be done right now. Like the main thing that's got to be done is, are you better? Did I end the day as well as I started? Like, did I count the wins? Did I count something I was grateful for? And did I,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, am I in a better headspace? Like, even waking up and being like mad at something, it's like, this, I don't like this for my day. I got to do something with that energy and put it somewhere. That's been my sense of that. But how this message kind of came back to me, I was like, this gives me something to think on and to listen to when I'm frustrated at something or someone, instead of me thinking they need to quote unquote change. It's like maybe they don't need to, maybe they haven't had enough. And maybe they never will, because like who's to say what enough is? Because it's
Right.
like some people get it, so to speak, and then it's not for everybody to get, so to speak.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. No doubt, man. That I like them last two on that with that Maxwell, man. He it's deep
Yeah.
if you really sit and chew on it for a while, man. But it just goes back to just trying to keep it. I know for me, I got to
Yep.
keep it simple, man. Um,
He
because I
gave me
think
a
what we do on a daily basis is already complex. Believe me.
yeah. But I think he
Yeah,
gave me
man.
a few things to think on, be like, huh, I hadn't thought about that. And I was like, oh yeah, this I was like sing song, yeah, people change this, either that. And it's like, wait a minute, let's think about this. And I'm like, okay, let me rewind, slow it down, be like,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Chew on it a little bit.
Yeah. Like peel the onion back.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Well, let me not keep you too long. Tell people a little bit about your podcast and where they can find you.
So you can find me on my podcast is the Safety Link podcast. And really, man, we're just trying to educate, we're trying to inspire, and just really giving a platform to what I talk about is safety professionals. I think safety professionals are people that are servant leaders, people that are taking care of people, man. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that could be anywhere from a mother and a father to an actual safety profession or safety manager
Mm-hmm.
to a nurse or law enforcement or your doctor. You know, these people we want to give a platform to be able to either talk about something they got going on and give them an opportunity to either ask for help or give some best practices to help us because I always say for servant leaders we take care of people but who takes care of us, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and sometimes they don't get taken care of and next thing you know uh, they're not either doing a good job or we find them in a bad place. So I
Mm-hmm.
just want to be a voice for that, a connection, and just be a resource for safety professionals, and really talking about safety, you know, above and beyond, you know, just construction, but safety in life, and it starts with self care, and portrays out from there. So, yes, you can find me at the Safety Link podcast. Um, and matter of fact, every Monday at 4, I usually release around 4:30. But
Mm-hmm.
that's probably going to change, man, because I got somebody that's going to be doing my content here real soon, man. So
Awesome.
just stay tuned, and once we get flowing here next week, man, we're going to be in a mode. So appreciate it, man.
Very nice. I was gonna say you're humanizing the bad guy. They're here to stop production. It's like
Yeah,
no. It's like
no, not at all, man. I'm just trying to. I always say I'm either trying to save you from the company or I'm trying to save you from yourself.
mm, it's a good point.
You know, so yeah, man, just being a resource, man, and trying to be a helping hand to some folks. And sometimes it doesn't deal with a hazard at work, man. It's dealing with a hazard maybe at home or
Yeah.
an illness or something like that. So I'm excited, Asher. I really am. And I just wanted to say a shout out to you, man. I've been, you know, listening to some of your pods, man, and you know, getting some pointers. And you know, in the background, man, and you've been doing it for a minute, man, and it's really nice to see, man. Uh, you know, we always talk about, you know, we haven't met and stuff like this, and it's just a great time to catch up. You
Yeah.
get to see my face, I get to see yours, you know, and put a face on that voice, man.
Yeah.
And man, I just want you to know, man, I love you, brother, man, and I'm proud of your growth, man. From the first time I remember listening to you, and um, it's major, man. And I'm just glad that you stuck on the line, and still, associate with folks on there that you're still on, when you can get on. But yeah, man, kudos to you as well, man. And I'm just so thankful for you, let me come on your podcast, man. Really
Thank
am.
you. You're very welcome.
Yeah.
And hey, this time next year we'll be having more and more conversations about like, man, it's funny because some things they seem like as soon as I saw your logo and I was like, that makes so much sense. It's like nobody's done that. And it's like, no, like everybody thinks like, oh, podcasts are saturated or this, that, and the other, but it's like it
There's
only take
gaps.
it there's always gaps and it always just takes that one thing and someone's like, oh yeah, I like that. I needed that. It's like I would have never guessed. I just thought this guy was just mad, like coming in here telling us do this, do that. But like when you see like hearing your passion, but also like meeting you and like seeing what you're able to do and will be able to do going forward, it's like I think the gaps that get bridged, it kind of helps us see eye to eye to where it's not us against the enemy, but it's like, okay, like you're talking to other humans, like you're talking to other people that have kids to get back to, they have frustrations, like
Yes.
somebody else that could be going through it. And it's if you don't take a moment to detach and kind of look at the situation differently, it's like you'd never know. You just think the whole world is like set up to go against you. And it's like, no, it's really not. And don't beat yourself up for thinking that, but here's something else to consider.
Yes. 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 Because one thing I learned from my mom, her being her to have dementia,
Mm,
she would, and this goes along right about what you're saying. She would have a dementia episode, and she would hear something, and it's like, you didn't hear that.
mm.
And it would aggravate her. And through reading and through going through counseling, oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, and
No,
reading and going, it
no,
again.
yeah, I don't know what it happened. Maybe move it down a little bit.
How about that?
No, no,
How about that?
no. Trying to make sure it's not me.
How about that?
Oh,
Hmm.
oh, what just happened?
Nothing. I didn't.
Well, okay, you're back. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard for me to hear it, man. It really is. But what I'm finding out, man, is is that at this point now, with what I sort of forgot, lost thought what I was saying, but
You're talking about your mom having dementia and
oh yeah,
her
with
hearing
my
the
mom
sound.
having dementia, she would say say she hears something, and we would say no, and then we end up finding out that like we had to stop doing that
Mm,
because even though we didn't hear it,
yeah.
she did.
Mm,
So it was real. So I guess saying to what you're saying is like sometimes it's like so real to some people.
mm,
You know what I'm saying? That um you may not see it,
yeah.
but that's what they see.
Right.
That's that's what's that's what's going on, man.
Right.
And that's when I knew that I had to stop. I had to start listening
Mm,
more to my mother,
yeah.
because what she was saying was so real.
Mm,
And just because I didn't see it didn't mean it wasn't happening.
right.
And so yeah, man, just really dialing in, man, just really listening and and dialing in. And you're right, man. The gap is, it gets bridged, because like right here we can, instead of, we me and you get to see each other eye to eye right here, right?
Yeah.
So it's really getting down to each other's level and just having a great talk. And it's hard to do that when you don't see somebody. But one thing I've learned to do when I'm on the phone is I've learned to, whether or not somebody is saying anything that I believe in or whatever,
Mm.
my first opportunity for me to gain anything is to be open to listen,
Yeah.
because it gave me an understanding of that person, of what they know,
Yeah.
maybe what they don't know.
Hmm.
But I was able to decipher those things, use what I could use, or say, hey, man, I know something different. If you didn't know this, I could tell you this, right?
Hmm.
But really having an understanding that hey, we're not all perfect. What my parents taught me and what I believe, that could be all wrong, you
Hmm.
know, and his can be all right. But I had to learn, for me to even fall in love, especially
Yeah.
a brother that is trying to be on the same mission as me, as far as find himself and be loving and have a Christ-like character. For
Yeah.
me to even be a Christian, to love you, I have to be able to listen to you and understand you, no matter what you say, whether right, wrong, or indifferent. I
Yeah.
got to listen to you, because there's something in there that I'll either be able to help, love on you, or I'll be able to direct you to something.
Mm.
But understanding, once I get to see you, really understand you,
Yeah.
then it's be like you said, it's like, oh, okay.
Mhm.
It's real. Like his
Yeah.
passion's real. It ain't fake. It ain't
Right.
just,
Right.
on the line. Like it's he's like this all the time. Like that's that's the good thing about this, Asher. And that's why I know next year I want to make sure I come to the retreat.
Yeah.
I always sponsor somebody, but I got to get there, man,
Yeah.
because everything that you may thought of, and everything that you do think, it just comes together
Yeah.
when it's right there again with us tangible people. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Very true.
Yeah, man. So yeah, I can't wait to hug on you, man, and and show love, man, and every other guy that's man that's on that prayer line. I'm so thankful, man. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know where
Likewise.
I'd be, Asher, without you, and a lot of these folks that had testimonies and struggles, and like they kept me making sure I'm human.
Yeah.
They kept me letting me know that, like, you ain't you ain't too big and bad to have some of these things here. Don't get too far away or ahead of yourself with
Right.
what you got going on. You know what I mean? And I, with me hearing the daily stuff, man, it keeps me lined up with what is really true.
Right.
And that's just be you, and loving on people, man, and all those good things, man. And but yeah, man, it keeps me humbled, man. But again, thank you, man, for staying in the pocket, bro.
You're very welcome. Appreciate your time today.
No doubt, man. You have a good one, man. Thank you again.
You too.
And please let me know about the pit pops and what's going on.
For sure.